My name is Rebecca C. Moeller, and I'm 31 years old, and the first lie came wrapped in something so casual I almost missed it. My sister said it over dinner like it didn't matter. Everyone's staying local this year. I nodded, chewing slowly, not really thinking about it. It was one of those Tuesday night family dinners at my parents' place, the kind with dry chicken, half-hearted smiles, and everyone pretending they weren't tired of each other. She didn't even look up from her phone when she said it. Just kept scrolling, mouth open, chewing like she'd already moved on to something more interesting. I remember feeling relieved. Flights were expensive, work had been tense for months, and we hadn't taken a real family trip since 2019. My mom chimed in about how simple plans were better anyway, how staying close to home was more meaningful. That was it. No debate, no disappointment, no questions. I even remember thinking I'd dodge something exhausting. Airport drama, hotel costs, forced fun, overpriced experiences everyone pretends to enjoy. I didn't have the bandwidth for any of it. Less than 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed with a notification from a card I hadn't touched in years. A backup card, one tied to a joint account I opened back in college with my parents, meant for emergencies only. The number on the screen didn't make sense at first. $11,200. Vendor name, Best Straw Voyages Croatia. My first thought was fraud, a skim, a clone, something random, until I opened the full statement. That's when my stomach dropped. There were charges stacked neatly together like someone had planned it carefully. Luxury villa deposit, prepaid dinners at a seafood place in Dubrovnik, entertainment packages that cost more than my monthly rent. One charge even had my sister's name in the memo. They hadn't even tried to hide it. Then my phone buzzed again. A text from her. No greeting. No explanation. Just one sentence. She's too slow to notice. She never checks that account. Followed by a thumbs up emoji. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I opened my banking app, froze the card, flagged every transaction, and started reversing them one by one. The bank representative sounded almost impressed when I explained. By the time I finished, it was nearly 4 a.m. I didn't sleep. Not because of the money. I knew I'd get it back. But because of how deliberate it was. How confident they were that I wouldn't push back. At 6 a.m. sharp, someone started pounding on my apartment door. Not knocking. Pounding. I opened it without a word. All 3 of them stood there. My dad's hair was still wet like he hadn't even dried off. My mom clutched her purse like she was waiting to enter a courtroom. My sister stood behind them in full airport clothes, sunglasses on, hoodie zipped, suitcase already by her side. She looked furious. They didn't say hello, they just started yelling. Accusations, panic, entitlement. You can't just cancel everything. We had plans. You're ruining this for everyone. Then my dad cut through the noise with something that made my chest tighten. She's coming over right now. Don't make a scene. Just listen to her. I stared at him. Who? No one answered. My sister smirked. My mom sighed and muttered, Rebecca, she's coming. We invited her. And in that moment, before I even knew her name, I understood this wasn't just about money anymore. I shut the door in their faces without another word. I didn't slam it. I didn't yell. I just closed it calmly, like the conversation had already ended and they were late to realize it. I leaned my forehead against the door for a moment, breathing through the tightness in my chest, then walked back into my living room and sat on the couch, staring straight ahead. They had invited her, paid her. The one person they knew still had access to parts of me I'd spent months trying to lock down. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang again. This time, when I checked the peephole, my stomach dropped. It was Harper, standing there like she didn't belong, like someone had physically placed her on my doorstep and told her where to stand. She wore that same denim jacket she'd owned for years, the one I used to pull over her shoulders when we'd sneak into old movie theaters together. It looked wrong now. Everything about the moment did. I opened the door. She didn't smile, didn't say hello. She just stood there holding her phone in one hand, keys in the other, eyes already tired. I'm not here to change your mind, she said. I just thought I should be honest. I needed the money. No apology, no hesitation, just the truth, dropped flat between us. I stepped aside and let her in, mostly out of curiosity. She didn't sit, She hovered near the edge of the living room, looking around like she barely recognized the place. New couch, new shelves, different curtains, same emptiness. She told me they'd contacted her 2 days earlier, said I was spiraling again, said I was stressed and threatening to cancel something that had been planned for months, that I always did this when pressure hit and needed someone who knew how to talk to me. She didn't ask questions. She took the $500. I thought it was a birthday thing, she said. Or maybe your parents were planning something special. I figured I'd come by, say a few nice things, remind you how to be a team player, and leave. I didn't respond right away. I let the silence stretch until it got uncomfortable. Then I asked her if she'd thought, even for a second, that they might be lying. She looked down. I didn't want to think anything, she said. When she reached the door, she hesitated. Your mom was crying on the phone, Rebecca. Your sister said you were acting like a stranger. I didn't know what to believe. She left. I closed the door before I could watch her walk away. The text started almost immediately. From my mom. We just needed a little help. Was that so much to ask? From my sister. You embarrassed me. From my dad. This trip was important, but I guess you never cared enough to see that. They weren't even asking for the full amount anymore. Now it was just half. Like they were negotiating. Like we were splitting dinner. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of anger. Because of questions. Why the desperation? Why go this far for a boat and a villa, and a place none of us had ever talked about visiting? At 3 a.m, my phone buzzed with a voicemail from my sister. Her voice was low, serious. He needs us to go. It was part of the deal. Don't mess this up, Rebecca. I played it 3 times. He. Who was he? And why did my name feel like collateral in something I didn't understand yet? That voicemail sat in my chest like a weight I couldn't shake. He needs us to go. It wasn't just a vacation anymore. It wasn't even about money. There was someone behind it, someone they were protecting, someone important enough to lie for and bold enough to use me as cover. I didn't call my sister back. I didn't text. I didn't ask questions out loud. I started digging. I pulled up the charge details again, slower this time, looking past the totals and dates. The vendor name wasn't just Best Straw Voyages. It was listed under Mistraw Voyages, with a customer service number attached. I called and pretended to be confused, like I'd misplaced my confirmation email. The man on the line had a light European accent and didn't hesitate. Within minutes, he confirmed everything. 7-day private yacht, split to Dubrovnik, paid in full by Rebecca C. Moeller, party of 5. You, your parents, your sister, and a Mr. Leo Parks. I stopped him, asked him to repeat the name. Leo Parks, he said again, like it was obvious. He's listed as the primary guest for the villa. I hung up without saying goodbye and stared at my screen. I'd never heard that name in my life. I opened my browser and searched it. Nothing solid at first. A few empty LinkedIn profiles. No photos, no history. When I added Croatia to the search, things shifted. 1 Instagram account, barely active. 1 photo of a sleek black car parked in front of a stone house, tagged somewhere near Dubrovnik. 2 comments under it, both from my sister. Can't wait to see it in person. You're unreal. That's when it clicked. Her new boyfriend. I'd heard the name once in passing, brushed off with a comment about how he was different, how he wasn't like the others. I'd assumed it was another short-lived thing. I was wrong. This wasn't casual. This was coordinated. The next few days were quiet. No calls, no texts, no one showing up at my door. I went to work, answered emails, pretended my head was still in the same place it had been a week earlier. It wasn't. Every thought circled back to that name, Leo Parks. Friday morning, the front desk in my building called to say I had a package. No return address. Inside was a pair of expensive sunglasses, the same brand my sister had been bragging about online. There was a note. You owe us. Don't ruin this. That night, my dad called. First time since the morning confrontation. I let it go to voicemail. His voice sounded tired, not angry. If you don't want to help, fine. But this trip isn't about luxury. It's about security. Security. I called the bank again. Someone had tried to book another flight. Split to Paris. 1 passenger. Leo Parks. It was denied. 3 things became clear. They were still planning to go. He was leaving before them, and he wasn't tagging along, he was leading it. Saturday afternoon, I drove to my parents' house without calling ahead. I already knew they wouldn't answer, or worse, they'd answer and lie. When I pulled into the driveway, the garage door was open. Inside, suitcases were lined up near the laundry room. My mom's floral one, my dad's beat-up duffel, and a sleek black suitcase I didn't recognize. New, expensive, out of place. I walked straight into the kitchen, and that's where I saw him. Leo, tall, barefoot, leaning against the counter like he belonged there. He had that kind of relaxed confidence that only comes from never being questioned. He smiled when he saw me. Didn't flinch. "Rebecca, right. Good to finally meet you." I didn't answer. I just looked around. No one else was home. He walked to the fridge like we were old friends. Heard there was some drama over the trip. "Your sister didn't want to tell you. Said it would get complicated." He talked easily, like this was all normal. Like he hadn't been using my name, my money, my family. I still hadn't said a word when he looked at me again and smiled wider. "Ever been to Croatia? Wild place, especially when you know who to talk to. The villa's not technically in my name, but don't worry, it's clean. Mostly." That word stuck. Mostly. I asked him what the trip was really about. He laughed softly. "Honestly, it was supposed to be a getaway. Your sister wanted to make it special. You were part of that." Plans changed. I asked what he did for a living. He tilted his head, amused. "Let's just say I move things." That's when my dad walked in through the side door carrying groceries. He froze when he saw me, then forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We were going to tell you everything." "No," I said. "You weren't. You were going to leave the country and hope I didn't notice." Leo leaned back against the counter. "Look, I get it. You feel left out. But it's not personal. It's business." I left without another word. Sat in my car for 15 minutes trying to breathe, trying to think. And that's when it hit me. Everything was in my name. If something went wrong, it would be on me. I called the airline and canceled everything. Flights, villa, yacht, all of it. That night, my phone exploded. Calls, texts, missed calls. Then one message cut through everything. From Harper, "You need to leave your place. I just heard something. He's not who they think he is." She followed it with another message. "Check your mom's jewelry box. He's already started." I drove back to my parents' house, slipped inside quietly, and went straight to the bedroom. The box was open, half empty. The heirlooms were gone. I stood there frozen, my chest tight, the truth settling in. This wasn't manipulation anymore. This was theft. And it wasn't over. I didn't touch anything. I just stood there with the jewelry box open, staring at the empty velvet slots where pieces of my childhood used to live. My grandmother's emerald brooch, the antique wedding ring my mom had promised my sister someday. Gone. I took a photo with my phone, my hands shaking more than I expected, then stepped back into the hallway and texted Harper. "You were right." Her reply came almost instantly. "I'm coming to you. Don't talk to them alone." I didn't ask how she knew. I didn't ask what else she knew. Suddenly, it didn't matter. I walked back into the kitchen, not bothering to be quiet anymore. My dad was sitting at the table, typing something on his phone. He looked up like he'd been waiting for me. "We can explain," he said. "No," I said. "You can listen." I showed him the photo. "This isn't a misunderstanding. He's already robbing you, and you're still defending him." He stared at the screen. For the first time since this started, something shifted in his face. The denial cracked. He opened his mouth, closed it again. Then the front door opened. My sister walked in with Leo right behind her. She saw my dad's expression before she saw me. Then she saw the phone. "What is this?" she asked. Leo glanced at the photo, smiled faintly, and said, "Now this is getting interesting." He walked into the living room and flipped on the TV like nothing had happened. I told him he was done, that he wasn't touching anything else in that house. He didn't even look at me. "You canceled everything, right? That was you." My sister turned pale. "You what?" Leo stood, calm, almost bored. "You all really thought I needed your money." Then he walked out. No rush, no panic, just gone. We filed a police report that night. More things were missing than we realized. Small valuables, cash, things no one checked often. A week later, we got a call. Another family, same pattern. different name. The only photo we had was from Instagram. His account disappeared that same night, like he'd never existed. 2 weeks later, my dad came to my apartment alone. He pulled an emerald brooch from his coat pocket, found it hidden in the garage. Then he showed me an email. $47,000 wired to an offshore account. Sender name, Daniel Harper. On the back, someone had scribbled a message. Tell Rebecca thanks for the ride. I couldn't stop thinking about that name, Daniel Harper. 3 years earlier, I'd applied for a short-term contract with a private security firm in Europe. One recruiter signed off as Daniel H. The email had vanished a month later. I reopened my backup account as a test, put in $100. The next morning, it was gone. Same offshore trail, same name. He was still watching. And I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a loose end. It's been almost a year since everything fell apart, though from the outside, my life doesn't look much different. Same job, same haircut, same routines, but underneath, everything has shifted. I live alone downtown now, nothing flashy, just quiet, controlled. 3 locks on the door, 2 security cameras. I never used to think that way, but habits change when trust breaks. I check my bank account every morning before I brush my teeth. Doesn't matter how small the balance is, I still check. I'm careful about who I let in now. Friends, dates, family, especially family. There was no dramatic reconciliation, just a slow, awkward return to neutral. I see my parents once a month, usually at a restaurant. We don't talk about Leo. My mom texts recipes. My dad sticks to weather and work. My sister and I haven't spoken in 4 months. The last time we did, she asked if I'd gotten over it yet, like it was an emotional phase. Harper and I still talk sometimes. She's in Seattle now, working, doing better. She never cashed the second half of the money. I believe her. Last week, I came home late and found an envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Inside was a postcard. Jagged coastline. Turquoise water. On the back, in small handwriting. Told you you'd love the view. D. I burned it in my kitchen sink. Not because I was afraid, because I was done. Because whatever game he thought he was still playing, I wasn't going to respond. Maybe he thinks he won. But I walked away with my name, my life, and something he'll never have. I know who I am now, and if he ever comes back, he'll find someone completely different. The strange thing about burning something like that is how quiet it feels afterward. No rush, no release. Just the smell of paper turning to ash and the steady drip of the sink as water runs over what's left. I stood there longer than I needed to, watching the edges curl and disappear, making sure there was nothing readable left. Not because I thought he'd come looking for it, because I needed to see it end with my own eyes. For a while after that, nothing happened. No messages, no unexplained charges, no envelopes. The silence felt unnatural at first, like the pause before thunder. I waited for my nerves to settle, but they didn't. They adjusted. I started noticing things I'd never paid attention to before. Cars that idled too long. Strangers who held eye contact a second too late. Every unfamiliar sound in my building made my shoulders tense. I hated that part the most. Not the fear, but the awareness. The sense that I couldn't unknow what I now knew. My parents never brought it up again. Not the jewelry, not the police, not the money. It was like the whole thing had been quietly filed away under things we don't talk about. My mom asked if I'd eaten. My dad asked if work was busy. Normal questions, asked too carefully. I could feel the guilt under their voices, but also the relief. Relief that it was over, or at least that they didn't have to look at it anymore. My sister stayed silent. No apology, no explanation, nothing. I heard about her through other people, that she'd moved, that she was seeing someone new, that she told friends the whole thing had been blown out of proportion. I didn't correct the story. I didn't defend myself. I let it sit the way she wanted it to sit. There are some battles you don't win by fighting. Harper checked in every so often. Not about him, about me. Simple messages. How are you sleeping? Are you eating? Did you ever get your sense of humor back? We danced around the past like it was fragile glass. I knew she carried guilt, and I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't want to punish her. I didn't want to reopen things either. We existed in a careful middle ground. Two people who'd seen the same thing from different angles and survived it differently. Then, one afternoon, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I almost didn't answer. Almost let it go to voicemail like I'd trained myself to do. But something told me to pick up. The voice on the other end was calm, professional, a detective from another state. They'd picked up a case with similarities to ours. Different family, different city, same pattern, same offshore trail, same disappearing act. They asked if I'd be willing to answer a few questions. I said yes, not because I thought it would lead anywhere, but because for the first time I didn't feel like hiding. I told them everything I could remember. The timing, the charm, the way he slid into the family without resistance, the way he never raised his voice, never threatened, never rushed. When the call ended, I sat there for a long time, phone still in my hand, realizing something had shifted again. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was participating, on my terms. That night, I slept without checking my account first. It wasn't intentional. It just didn't occur to me. When I realized it the next morning, I didn't panic. I smiled. Just a little. Not because I felt safe, but because I felt present, like I was finally living forward instead of bracing backward. I don't know where he is now. I don't know how many names he's using or how many doors he's opened since he walked out of my parents' house. But I know this. I'm not waiting anymore. Not for answers. Not for apologies. Not for closure wrapped up in a neat explanation. Some stories don't end with justice. They end with distance. And distance, I've learned, can be its own kind of freedom.